What up, it's your boy, the Incredible Man. Yes, I'm back at it again, and this is New Amsterdam Season 3, Episode 11 review. And overall, it was a decent episode. Let's get into it, man. We see that Max is trying to get rid of global warming at New Amsterdam. He's not trying to do it on a global scale, but trying to reduce their carbon footprint at New Amsterdam, because we see that like they end up throwing away a whole bunch of trash by 7 a.m. They have a bunch of jello that like they don't end up using a lot. It ends up getting thrown out because the patients don't eat it. And like there's so much other stuff going on. There was a bunch of ambulances just leaking exhaust on his way going to the hospital. So Max is trying to reduce their carbon footprint after talking to his mother-in-law. And, you know, it's like, well, everybody says they want to make a change and make that sacrifice, but they never really put that first foot forward, or they always change their mind when it's something pertaining to them. And that made Max think a little bit. So he decided to implement all of these changes at New Amsterdam. He tried to do it singularly. Well, he tried to do it singularly at the hospital first. He was trying to get rid of the gloves, then he was the light bulbs, then it was the red meat. So like there was a lot of stuff he was trying to change and help with all of these carbon with their carbon footprint, and nobody was really on board with it, because every time he brought it up, there was like, well, it's not really working for me. It's always something that really wasn't working for someone. So by the end of the episode, Max decided to implement all of these changes excuse me, implement all of these changes at once, whether it was going to hurt some people's feelings or it wasn't for them or not. He decided to do it all at one time. Instead of upsetting just a few people, he just upset everybody and implemented all of these changes at once. And it's something that I kind of register with myself a little bit now, because while watching this episode, I was like, you know what? We could really just make that difference. Whether, like, even for me, myself personally, I don't have to eat meat all the time. I'm never going to be a vegetarian. I'm going to be 100%. That's just not in the cards for me. But I can reduce my meat intake and eat vegetables maybe a little bit more. You know, not a salad. I'm not a salad kind of guy, but I could do maybe something, maybe once a week, maybe just try a salad and then try to implement it more into my life and stuff like that after I get used to it. But I can definitely see myself doing that, you know, simpler, you know, kind of make it a little easier once I do it, instead of just all of a sudden at once, because people tend to, you know, not really take it on when we try to rush and do things right off rip, because we see that failed a couple times for Max this episode until he decided to do it on a massive scale, and then it started to gain a little traction. So I feel like that's something that I can definitely implement into my own life, and I got to thank New Amsterdam for that, man. But Max is trying to do all of this because, you know, after his conversation with his mother-in-law, he wants to change the world for the better for the kids and everyone that's coming after them. So I gotta give Max a round of applause for that. It's a legit strategy, because, you know, global warming is real, man. So let's not sit here and not acknowledge the fact that it is real. Now, we have Bloom this episode, because Bloom is feeling just carefree, all lovey-dovey, because she has what's old girl's name? I think her name is Layla. Because she's in a full-blown relationship with Layla now, so, you know, they're all lovey-dovey. And Bloom has taken a week vacation away from work. She comes back to work, nothing bothers her. She's having a blast. She's having a ball. She's happy. She's doing all of this other stuff, and the ED is just a mess, because she's not snapping at people how she normally does. And we see that her and Sharp kind of switch roles a little bit this week, because Sharp is normally the one that's calm, cool, and collected. And this week, Sharp is kind of off the rails a little bit, because she's dealing with Mina, because Mina's dealing with some grief. We saw that in episode 10, you know, after her seeing, like, going through those patient files and everything, and she really just broke down and cried. And we see that Sharp ended up getting her a psychology, nope, not psychology, a therapy session, and Mina decided not to take it. But we see that ever since they started living together and everything, they're butting heads a lot, and it's bringing out a different side of Sharp. And Sharp's patient this episode kind of gave her a realization to her life as well, which just happens to be a sister that's been in a convent for 30 years. But before she became a sister, she was a raging party alcoholic girl. She was living her life up. And we find out that, you know, she had melanoma. No, was it malaria? that didn't trigger until the heat wave, because it was inside of her, but like she ended up being locked inside of a convent for 30 years, so it didn't trigger until she came outside in the heat wave, which was crazy. But her whole life and her talking to Sharp kind of gained some insight into what Sharp was dealing with, and we see that, you know, maybe Sharp should go to this therapy session, but she ended up going to the Islamic center, the same one that Mina went to, because both of them are dealing with some things that they really need to air out. They need to have somebody to talk to, and we see that after the case with the sister, Sharp really realized that, you know, some things was going on with her, because she started yelling at Dr. Walsh, yelling at Bloom. There was a lot of stuff that she was going on. Now, she apologized by the end of the episode, but beforehand we see that Sharp was really, she tore into Max. Like, Sharp was on a rampage, man, and I feel like that's because her and Mina are butting heads, and there's a lot going on and a lot to unpack there. But by the end of the episode, we see that both of them ended up going to the Islamic center to talk it out and get some help, because they both are going through some things, man. I don't know, man. It's just, oh boy. And we see that Reynolds is dealing with some stuff this episode too, man, because like I said, this episode was good, man. It was really, really good. Wasn't a lot going on, but it was really, really good. Now, everything else I enjoyed. Like, that stuff with Max, it was a little iffy, but everything else I really, really enjoyed. We see that Reynolds is on his way to work. He's talking to his sister about his mom and his mom's boyfriend, and about how he keeps bringing over pound cake and stuff, knowing that his mom has diabetes. And we see that on his way to work, he comes across this car with this kid trapped in the back seat, and the kid is, you know, he's probably suffocated and heat stroke and everything else, because the window's up and it's heat wave outside. And he saves the kid, but we find out that the kid is one of the doctors that work at New Amsterdam. And he's traumatized, he's hurt, he's heartbroken, because he's been super busy. He's raising his child by himself, and he forgot that his son was in the car because school is on again, is off again. So like, he's been super busy. He had an operation to do, and he forgot that his son was in the car because his son was asleep, and he might normally talk to him, and he just forgot because his son was asleep. Now, in the very beginning, I was like, well, dude, I mean, now I don't have any kids, so I can't relate. But in the beginning, I was like, well, dude, I mean, I know you're raising him by yourself and everything, and it's very simple to forget, but that's not something you should forget. I'm pretty sure it happens, but that's not something that you should forget. And seeing him being heartbroken and telling Reynolds that it was an accident, it just slipped my mind. And in that moment, I was feeling like Reynolds felt. I was like, this is something you should never forget. But as the episode progressed on, we see that Reynolds is talking to his sister, and he's been giving his mom her outdated diabetes medication, and it registered with me. It was like, well, now that's the same thing the doctor just said. It was a simple mistake, and it could have happened to anybody, but you know, Reynolds kind of tore into him a little bit, and then he called child services, and I was thinking to myself, I was like, well, you know what, Reynolds? Now his sister tore into him, but it's a simple mistake that happened. You didn't notice that the medicine was outdated, but you had been giving it to her anyway. So like, it's just a simple mistake. And I like the way that he went up, he owned up to that, and he went and talked to the child services lady, and you know, to kind of, he didn't advocate for leniency, but he advocated for forgiveness. And by the end of the episode, we see that the father is back with his son, and him and Reynolds has a nice little connection and a little moment there. And I feel like that was a wonderful story to end on that note. And because I feel like maybe it's one of those things that just because it's TV, it worked out all lovey-dovey, because I feel like had that happened in real life, it wouldn't have been such a happy ending. Whether Reynolds advocated for him or not, I don't think it would have been such a happy ending. But overall, it was just a nice episode, man. Wasn't too much going on, but we see that Chance, is his name Chase? Chance? I want to say it's Chance. I think it's Chance. We see that Iggy confronted Chance for the final time, hopefully, you know, about leaving his family alone, because I think he's infatuated with Iggy now. Iggy's the one that helped him and made him realize some things with his mental faculties. So he wants to turn to Iggy and use Iggy to help him get better, and that can't be the case of why you want to get better. And Iggy's trying to cut him loose and telling him that, you know, I'm no longer your psychiatrist, and my husband is no longer a psychiatrist, so you need to leave us alone, because if this goes any further, I will have to get the police involved to get a restraining order. And now with crazy people like that, I feel like that's some stuff that you should never say to them. And I feel like Iggy knows this, but like he can't really see straight because he's bothering his family and he's continuing to bother him. So I feel like Iggy knows that this is some stuff he should have never said, but he said it anyway. And by the end of the episode, we see that Iggy is headed home. He's ready to have dinner with his family. His husband's laying out the table and everything. And his daughter comes in and she has on Chance's hat. And Iggy's like, "Where'd you get that hat?" She's like, "From your friend." Now, he's messing with their kids, man. Now, that's something totally different. Now, when you were messing with Iggy and his husband, it was wrong, and that's still something that you shouldn't do. But that is a little bit understandable. But going after their kids and messing with their kids, that's something you do not do, man. And I feel like this situation just escalated 100% because now he's messing with the children. And I'm just super excited for next week's episode, man. I cannot wait. And I still apologize to you guys for being all kinds of late. And I'm trying to be a little bit better because I'm feeling great. I'm feeling fine. So I'm trying to put everything out back at a reasonable time for next week, man. So this is your boy, Nick Incredible. Don't forget to smash the like button till you can't smash it anymore. Comment down below and I'll be sure to respond to each and every one of them and subscribe, but only if you really want to, man. Peace out. I cannot complain because today, I'm doing my